Hey guys, we're here after a deadlift and bench workout.
Pretty brutal workout,
yeah. I should have actually done this introduction before the workout, but you know, I was gonna try and fake it and be like, yeah, we're about to go in and do a workout, and then like, all right, we're covered in sweat, look like crap. No way anybody's gonna buy that.
Exhausted.
So yeah, so we're doing the introduction afterwards, so sue us. But this is my friend William Grazione. Will is a pro natural bodybuilder with the IFPA. Turned pro, what was it, last year? Last year.
At the Nicole Week show.
Yeah.
Southeast
so I met Will a few years ago when I was doing one of my pro shows. He was an amateur.
Yeah.
I believe you won that show too,
yes,
right?
Yes, sir,
yeah, so you won an NGA pro card as well. And then we got together about a year later, helped Will out with some prep, and just kind of became friends over the course of that time. You and your girlfriend Tanya, and me and my wife, we hang out all the time now. And you know, Will is also one of my coaches that I send people to and I approve. So you guys definitely should check him out. But I want to talk to you a little bit. You know, for our viewers are real familiar with you.
Okay.
How'd you get into bodybuilding, weightlifting? You know, what's your background in this sort of stuff?
Okay. Well, essentially, I started lifting weights at a very young age. My uncle kind of used to come over, right, and he'd have me doing curls at like 8 years old. And that kind of just carried over on into high school where I played football. I played football in college as well. And, you know, I came to a point where I liked lifting more than I liked playing football.
Okay.
And once that turned over, then I wanted to find out more about it. I have a bachelor's degree in exercise science. So I spent 4 years of my life in college essentially learning about, you know, nutrition and training. And then when it actually came time, I was like, I should do a bodybuilding show. So I felt like I had some potential to do it.
Yeah.
And ever since I was, you know, a teenager, you know, I've been in gyms with bodybuilders, and they've kind of asked me nonchalantly, you should do a show, you know?
Yeah.
And so then I began trying to research things, and I found you. It was Life of a Natural Pro. Right?
Going old school.
So I started watching all those videos, and I started learning about the organizations, you know, and then I started learning more about macronutrient dieting. And once I learned about that, you know, it was pretty much full steam ahead. You know, I just set it in my mind that I was going to compete in the Nicole Week show. I believe it was 2010. It was the very first show I had ever done. And I used pretty much a lot of your training philosophies and your dieting approach. And I ended up winning the overall at that show as well. It's my very first contest, and from that point in time, I was hooked. Yeah. And from there, you know, I've kind of adapted a passion for it, and just, you know, the want to learn as much as possible.
Yeah, a prep coach who actually has some education. It looks good. Imagine that. Oh, sorry. But you know, we kind of we didn't really talk a whole lot about the workout we did, so I want to touch on that real quick. I'm actually having my training done by my friend Ben Esgro, who's one of the, you know, I always say he's one of the best experts. Very few people know about. More people should know about him. And he's put me on what's called kind of self-regulating undulating periodization. So what we did today was you go in, you work up to a conservative max. You know, I would say it was semi-conservative. I was kind of fired up.
Yeah, I would say you always are.
Yeah, I always am, even at 90%, you know. So you go in, you work up to a conservative max, and the rest of your workout is based off that max. So today I hit 675. Now my best pull, not my best pull ever, but up there, and it felt very solid. So then I was going to take 80% of that. And that's okay, Serge. Don't worry about it, man. Cameo from our man Serge. So it's you know, we took 80% of what we hit. You hit 500. I hit 675, and then we did 8 sets of 3 with that. You know, get that volume in, get that overload. You know, a lot of people don't realize that. They think of overload only as the amount of weight you use, but volume is another form of overload. So we did that, and then I did some bench press as well, and you had benched yesterday, so you did some military
my
press.
chest was a little sore.
But what'd you think of that workout? It's pretty brutal, right?
You know what? I think I may be giving old Ben an email here pretty soon. But yeah, I've been trying to find something that, you know, it could help build my strength in the deadlift. I'm usually a sumo puller, but my conventional slacks off. But you know, the amount of volume reminded me of running like a Shaiko or a small off. And I like the idea of it though, in the fact that because some days you feel like shit. Some days you feel great.
Right,
you know
and I mean? So it's self-regulating.
Exactly.
So you go in, maybe if I felt like crap, and I only hit 650, well now the rest of my program is based off that.
Based off that max.
It's kind of the Bulgarian mentality that you know, you're not going to be, my best ever pull is 700 pounds, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not that good every day.
Yeah.
Some days I'm worse, and some days I'm probably a little better, right? So it's important to have that self-regulation, and that way all your training is based off of how you feel that day. Now it takes some time to get used to that, to get used to understanding like what you should be going to on a certain day, because the most important thing with this is not missing your reps. And if you go too high, you go overboard, you'll miss reps, and that is probably the worst thing you can do in training.
That's kind of that, you know, train smarter. You know what I mean? Not always, you don't have to always go in and just absolutely kill it. You know what I mean?
Well,
go to a max.
And I say, you know, the majority of bodybuilding routines out there, I think, overstress the nervous system and underutilize the muscular system. You know, you go a couple sets to absolute failure and then you're trashed.
Exactly.
Well, we didn't go to absolute failure on those 8 sets of 3, but by the end we're getting somewhat close, and the overall volume is greater. Now I probably could have done after the 675. I probably could have done, you know, 640 something like that for a triple or something like that. But it had only been 1 set, you know, and then I'd have been so demolished I wouldn't be able to do anything after that. So. Whereas with the 540, I'm doing 8 sets of 3. I'm getting so much total workload in that it's actually a greater amount.
Initially going in, when I started to pull the 405, I was like, oh, this is going to be
easy.
You know? And then once I got to like set 5, 6, I was like, oh God, my lats were on fire, right?
Yeah.
And then it was like, once I got to 7, 8, it was like the home stretch and it became easier.
Light at the end of the tunnel, exactly. So, you know, we don't have a whole lot of stuff to say about training, but just basically, you know, check out self-regulating, daily undulating periodization. Check out our friend Ben Esgro. Check out my website for coaches that I recommend. Great coaches like Will, who actually care about people.
Thank you.
And absolutely, buddy. And then do you have a website yet?
The website is not up yet, but the website should be up soon.
Do you know what the name of the website
It's going to be called metabolicevolution.com.
Okay.
All right.
And then you have a Twitter?
I have a Twitter. It's W Grazione. My Instagram is WGraz IFPA Pro. And I have a Facebook as well. So if anybody wants to contact me through there, I'm more than welcome to.
Awesome. And your emails, if people get in touch with
my
you?
My email is teamgrazione.com, or teamgrazione@hotmail.com, sorry.
That's right. We had a lot of volume. We're not thinking straight. All the blood's in the legs.
Hungry.
So, exactly. We're going to get out here and get something to eat. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoy the workout.
Let's go, Layne.
Let's go! Come on! Do not hesitate! Come on! Go! Go! Lock it out!
Dominate, baby. Easy, lock it. Hips through, yep. Perfect.
Easy weight, Layne. Come on.
Easy.
Let's go, Layne. Easy weight. Come on. Hips. Hips. There we go. Come on. Hips.
Hips. Yes, sir.
Easy weight, Layne. Come on. Hips. Come on. Hips. Good.
Yes, sir.
Let's go. Hips. Come on. Hips. Come on.
Will. Come on. Easy way. Right. Good. Come on, hips. Hips. Hips, come on. Go. Come on. Up. Come on. Hips. Speed. Hips. Up. Come on. Hips. Good. Dominate. Come on, Layne. Good. Hips. Come on. Perfect. Again. One more. Money. Finish. Come on. Up. Hips. Come on. Hips. Hips. Woo. Yo. Yo. Come on, one more. Yo. Hips. We kind of ranted to each other about kind of the state
Yes.
of coaching.
Yes.
You know, it's, you know, you've got, on one hand, you have like really popular people who don't know what they're doing, you know, who have these huge teams of people who, you know, basically it's like a mill of people, hundreds and hundreds of clients, and, you know, out of those, you know, a handful of them come out and do well, and they prop those up, and then everybody else is kind of pushed under the rug. And then we usually end up with those people, you know, because they're just so beat down that they need help. But then I think like there's also like probably even a worse problem is people who do like one show or get a pair of abs, or get a set of abs,
Yeah.
only 2 abs,
Sure.
Get a set of abs and think, oh yeah, I'm a coach, you know, like I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I lift weights, you know, so, and by the same token, I mean, I do know coaches who don't necessarily have an education in it, like our friend Paul Revelia. He doesn't really have a background in exercise or nutrition, but he, you know, what's different about him, we talked about this, is he's humble, right? And he really cares about people. And I think that that's the biggest quality in a coach, because if you really care about people and you're humble enough to understand that you don't know everything, eventually you're going to like learn what works just through process of elimination, because you're going to say, okay, this 2 hours of cardio, whatever, this isn't working, this is hurting people, you know, over time, and so you're going to switch to something else. So eventually you're going to adapt if you listen enough, you know? I always tell people, I used to have people on pretty low calorie diets, nothing like some of these, you know, ridiculous diets you hear about, but lower than what I do now, and I would just kind of keep pushing lower and more cardio, and I eventually got to the point where I'm like, you know what, these people, like, it doesn't make sense, right? Like the calorie input, how much exercise they're doing, they can't drop body fat. I can either assume that everybody is lying to me and they're all cheating on their diets, or I can try to humble myself and figure out what else is going on. And, you know, that's kind of where the metabolic adaptation research came about.
I actually came to a phase, you know, about 3 years ago, right after I graduated, and you know, I had started working with friends, and I saw it happening. You know, I'm like, I was slowly giving more cardio and slowly, you know, dropping carbs down, and things weren't happening the way I wanted to.
Yeah.
There has to be a different way to go about doing this, you know, and that's when I started to learn more about metabolism.
Yeah, and you know, it's not to say that you never cut carbs down, you never cut calories. I did a video about this as well. You know, some people have taken what I've said and go in the complete opposite direction. Like, Layne never diets people. You know, all he does is raise calories. No. I cut calories, all that sort of stuff. But it's about, like, when does it get ridiculous, right? Like, when does it get into a point, if you're down to 1,200 calories and people are doing a lot of activity and they're not dropping weight, that says to me they're so adapted to a low calorie, high activity that it's time to actually put whatever competitive goals they have or fat loss goals they have on hold, try and optimize their metabolic rate, and then once you get them up at a higher metabolic rate, then diet them back down when they're more able to do that. So, you know, I think a lot of what happens is one, I think a lot of coaches are ignorant of that kind of thought process, or two, so I'll get a lot of people that will come to me, and I'm sure you've had this, they come to you, so I want to diet down, I want to lose body fat. Okay, well, let's see what you're doing now, and they send you their stuff, and it's 800 calories and 2 hours of cardio, and you say, well, you can't diet. Like, you're already super restricted, and you're not losing anything. There's no magic here, right? We can't make something out of nothing. You can't draw blood from a turnip, you know? So we've got to work on improving your metabolism, and then we can focus on fat loss, and that may take, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, something like that. And a lot of times, those people, they'll go, you know?
You know, typically I've seen it to where so many people are so adapted to that quick fix. That's what they want, you know, and it's like,
well, what the media tells
this guy over here, he's promising me that I can lose 10 pounds in a month.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And then they come to me, I'm like, I'm not going to allow you to diet. It's not healthy for you to diet. You're maintaining at 1,000 calories.
Yeah.
What
are you
the hell do I do from there?
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to be eating?
And that's the thing is some people are so quick, they want that quick buck, you know, they feel like maybe they'll be their last client or whatever it is. And it's like, sure, yeah, we can diet you down, no problem. I mean, I've heard people say, oh yeah, I can fix your metabolism and get you ready for a show, you know.
At the same time.
Lying sack of shit. That's basically what you are, you know what I mean? Right? Yeah, it's magic. I got the magic formula, you know, these supplements and these special foods, you know. And it's all bullshit, you know. And so I think, but I truly believe I've actually made more money in my lifetime by telling people, like, look, I'm not going to do that. And it'd be the easiest thing in the world for me to tell you what you want to hear. But I'm not going to do that because that's not how I do business. That's not what I believe in. And I truly believe that if somebody's a reasonable person, eventually they respect you. I've had a lot of people, I just had a client come back to me recently who I had tried to tell these sorts of things, didn't listen to me, and then a couple years later, now they come back to me and they said, you know what, you were right about everything. I went with somebody who said, you know, I can diet you down, and I got in shape, but it was at great cost. You know, now I'm 30 pounds over stage weight, you know, I can't lose anything. I have an awful relationship with food, you know, so it's like, I'm not willing to completely blow up somebody's lifestyle just because they want to lose 5 pounds of fat. You know what I mean? It's not worth it. Take the time, fix the underlying problem, and then you can focus on getting lean in a healthy way and get stage ready. I mean, we've shown it over and over and over.
You know, and I would say probably about currently like half my clients are probably building their metabolic capacities because they've been so kind of pounded down in the past that, you know, they come to me and they're like, you know, I've gained this much weight in this amount of time and I'm only eating 1,000 calories, you know, so therefore, what do we have to do? And I just try to stretch patience to them as much as possible. You
it's
know,
tough.
Like what you were talking about, you know, the fact we actually care about people. You know what I mean? Integrity, we care about people, you know what I mean? And we're not just going to shaft you. You know what I mean? Which is what a lot of prep coaches do.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, I'm sure you're starting to get it now. I can't tell you the number of horror stories I've heard from people. And, you know, I didn't know what kind of Pandora's box I was opening up when I did the whole metabolic adaptation video series. And I got to the point where I was getting so many client requests today. I'm like, I was actually having like anxiety attacks over doing more videos. I wanted to, but I also knew how many requests I was going to get and just couldn't take on people. And so that's why I started looking to other people I trust, like you, like Paul, like Ben Esgro, like Brooke Erickson, like Ava Cowan, you know, all these people. And we've actually really built a nice network, you know, and I always tell people, you know, because I get the coaches say, well, Layne's just making this up. He made it up to, you know, make a bunch of money.
To get more
clients. It's like, dude, ask anybody who's emailed me how many people have gotten through. 95 to 99% of people I turn away and I send to other people because I'm not willing to compromise the quality of what I do for one individual person. So, and that means I can only take on so many people at a time. So I refer people to other people, and you know, I would rather do that and have them have a good experience and and say, you know what, Layne couldn't take me on, but you know, he cared about me enough to refer me to somebody who was a great coach for me. And so that way I know they'll never hesitate to recommend me to somebody else maybe in the future, right? Post-workout.
Time to eat.
Yeah.
Carb city.
Crabs, fats, sodium. But bruh, it's not clean. What will we do? Good night, sweet gains. You know, Will, at first I thought we weren't natty for eating here.
Sure.
Because who eats, you know, who's natty can eat Moe's post-workout? Nobody. But then I found out that the chicken is actually all natural. It says right there on the wall. We have, and the steak is all natural too. So we have maintained our nattiness just for evidence. Right there. Boom. All natural, grass-fed. So natty, baby. So natty.